All right, live from Lincoln Center here in Dallas, Texas, folks. Coming up next is Rich Fournier, a superstar real estate agent and real estate coach, founder of Peak Results Academy in Toronto, Canada, coming up now. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. Ha-ha! Yes. Guaranteed today. C3, how are you, brother?
Man, I felt like we were at the Mike Tyson fight this past weekend with that introduction.
Oh, was that something that I lay some power down there on the first stroke?
Yeah, yep. We must have some power with Rich coming.
Rich, let me tell you, Rich is going to light us up here in a little bit. Speaking of Mike Tyson, though, I do think that's something we need to check in about here.
Jeez.
Yeah? In the control room himself, none other than my spiritual partner, Mr. Travis Giles. How are you, Travis?
I am great. How about yourself?
Man, I'm feeling the vibes today, yes, I'm telling you.
Yes, indeed. Hey, we couldn't wait to do a show. We had to do it early on Tuesday, right?
Well, we had to. Yeah, I'm headed to Puerto Rico. We're going to have a little fun down in Puerto Rico in a couple of days here and take care of a little bit of business. But, you know, C3 mentioned Mike Tyson. I just wanted to get your take on that fight. I think Vegas is still up in arms about what happened.
It ended in a draw. That is probably the worst part about the fight. It was actually very entertaining to me. I just didn't like the outcome, I guess you could say.
No way. It was no way a draw. No way.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. We all know who won that fight.
Yeah.
Well, I guarantee you one thing, as we do here. I guarantee you this show is not going to end in a draw. We're about to bring on Rich Fournier from Toronto. Rich, how are you doing there today, sir?
I'm fantastic, enjoying some snow. Our first snowstorm of the year. I'm pretty pumped, though, man. You got quite a reputation. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm a legend in my spare mind here, or spare time, or whatever they say. But thank you, Rich. And you know, I have to say I have to say I really enjoyed being on your podcast. Rich has got an amazing podcast and you're syndicated everywhere, I believe, right? Where can people listen to your show, Rich?
We're all over. I think we're in 18 countries. We got started this year. It's been a labor of love, you know, trying to have someone on the show, and you realize how difficult it is to interview someone who maybe that person doesn't even know what to say, right? So that's the challenge of being someone on the other side of the table. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, well, you've had some outstanding gifts, my name excluded, of course, but you've had some real talent on your show, and I would encourage anybody who enjoys our show, obviously, to look you up, and we'll put the link down here in the comments and in Facebook when the show's done here so people can find you. But there's some people here who may not be familiar with Rich Fournier, and let's take a minute and welcome them to the show. And Rich, would you kind of just pull the covers back a little bit, pop the hood open, and give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure can. Well, I'm happily married, 3 daughters. Been in the real estate business for about I think close to 11 years now. Prior to that, I was a stockbroker and financial planner with one of the major brokerage houses in Canada. Was going to buy that brokerage and, well, actually not that brokerage. We were going to buy a small independent financial planning firm, and that didn't go the way I expected it to go. And I found myself unemployed and having 3 kids, and realized that I was about to go bankrupt. So we entered into the real estate space, and we've had a heck of a run.
So you went from the smoke into the fire, I should say, or the frying pan into the fire, huh? Right into real estate.
You know, it's a crazy game that we're in, right? The emotions, it's an MBA, it's a PhD in business is what I really look at real estate, right? You got to generate leads, you got to create relationships, you got to show properties, have opinions about properties, understand economics. Then you have to be a good person. You got to figure out financing, you got to manage emotions. Then you got to try and get a deal together and then get paid. It's a crazy business.
You know, what I think is interesting is you and I both share a bit of a financial background. I worked for a brokerage, stock brokerage as well, coming out of grad school. And obviously you learn things, particularly if you're on the sales side of that business. You learn skills that are applicable in real estate. But there's something that was a little different about Rich, that what I mean by that is your brain is wired, I think, to be a problem solver and a helper. And I, you and I have never met personally, but I follow you and I understand where your heart comes from. Let us understand a little bit about Peak Results Academy. What motivated you to get into the business of helping other people? And I know that one of your mentors, I'll go ahead and mention his name, Bob Proctor, played a big role in this, but give us a little bit of the kind of the backstory on that. Would you, Rich, please?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll go back a few years. When I was a kid, I was raised by a single mom who it was a very challenged environment, and she worked for a chiropractor, and he was a great guy. He gave her some Tony Robbins cassette tapes, and Personal Power, I think, was the name of the brand.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was young, and you have to understand, I was raised in a blue collar town, steel town, a lot of drinking, a lot of craziness around us. But my mom tried to keep kind of a bubble around me, and she used to play these tapes. And so I wasn't listening to them directly, but I'd hear some things, and I'd always wonder, what does he mean by that? Or it was different language than I had ever heard in my circle of influence. Fast forward 20 years, and I ended up working for a brokerage house who really promoted personal development, personal training, and really changing how you view and how you think about things. But I always carried some of my own personal demons. There was always some emotional blocks that I knew that I was getting in my own way in terms of production. Self-doubt, fear of being liked or not liked. You can talk about all those sorts of things, but I always knew there was something holding me back. And then about 7 years ago, I was, maybe 6 years ago, I was doing a course for another coaching and training company, and I was into the real estate space. And this agent came up to me and asked me a question. He goes, Rich, and this agent was producing at a pretty high level. It was Century 21 at the time. He said, Rich, I know what to do, but why don't I do it? And that question haunted me because I had some ideas about why he wasn't doing it, but I wasn't really sure. So over the next 6 years, I spent a lot of time and many thousands of dollars reaching out to some of the best performance strategists in the world to really understand what creates change in someone's mind. And that led me to Bob Proctor. I was asked to be a Tony Robbins results coach and did some training with them recently. And then I stepped away from the organization because it didn't work for our family. But I learned a lot about what creates a result in someone's life. And it really comes down to some basic things. And we can get into that in detail. But that's kind of the history of personal development for me and why I wanted to figure out why I was kind of not performing to the level that I needed to perform at. But I really wanted to understand why other people weren't doing it because I thought, well, if I can figure out them, then I can figure out me.
So let's speak to some of the people in our audience, Rich, that are out there watching the show. First time they've met you, they may be contemplating getting into real estate, and all of a sudden we're telling them they need a head coach, right? I mean, they're thinking real estate is like HGTV, where you go out and you show 3 houses, and your clients are all, overqualified, make too much money to buy the house. Nothing ever goes wrong to speak of that they can't fix in a few short outtakes or a couple of minutes. What in the world is wrong with the way that the media portrays the life of a realtor? What's the message that we need to get out to people who are looking to get into this business, and why is it important to have the right mindset and really work on that 5.5 inches between your ears?
Well, everyone may not agree with what I'm about to say, but this is how I've come to understand it. This business is about relationships, but this business is also about how many people did I connect to today to figure out who's going to buy and sell a piece of property. And then over time, I need to create a digital relationship with them so they get to know, like, and trust me. And over time, maybe they'll transact with me in the future. So we entered a space just north of Toronto where we didn't know anyone. In the first 18 months, we did about $500,000 in gross commission. And why is that? Well, one, we use the internet. Got to use the internet, got to drive business somehow, right? People are looking online. You got to figure out, how do I reach these people? But really, though, it was my mindset surrounding those people. And the industry or HTV or the trainers in our world, they teach a lot of good things, but HTV really paints a picture of that. It's really easy. I mean, everyone that I interviewed, including yourself on that podcast, you're talking thousands and hundreds and thousands of hours on a monthly basis trying to generate business for themselves. It doesn't come easy. And you have to have the right mindset to make it happen. And most people aren't programmed, hardwired, or conditioned, however you want to put it, to pick up the phone, dial for dollars, knock on doors, spend thousands of dollars on lead gen, and actually do the daily method of operation they need to do every single day to drive business. They're not conditioned to do that sort of work. And so people come into our industry thinking that, well, I get my license, I'm just going to talk to a few people and do a deal. Well, in our market, we're at 70-odd thousand real estate agents in a three-hour radius. It's a lot of agents we're competing against.
That's
right?
A lot. You guys, what's the population up there? Maybe just.
So you look at Toronto, I think it's around 55,000 on the Toronto Real Estate Board, but then you have all the sub-boards surrounding the Toronto Real Estate Board. So you have the greater Toronto area. So if you go a 3-hour window radius all around, we're probably at around 72,000 agents, somewhere around there.
What about 5 million people, I would guess, up in Toronto?
No, a little bit more than that. Depends how far up you want to go.
Yeah. I didn't realize that's a big city. I mean, Dallas-Fort Worth Travis has the numbers, right? How big is Dallas-Fort Worth? I know we have about 40,000 agents here, and I would guess we probably have, in the neighborhood, depending on how far out you go, about 5 million people. So Toronto's big. I know Toronto's a big city, but that's still a lot of agents per capita. But what about the failure rate, or the opposite of the success rate, I should say, for agents up in Canada? Here, about 82% of agents who get their license fail to renew it altogether. They don't even go past the first renewal. They're out of the business. What's it like up there?
Yeah, it's about the same.
Same.
It's about the same.
Okay.
I think I just saw some recent numbers. So we share different boards, and one of the boards I saw here, I think we were at 50% of agents do 0 deals a year. Right.
Okay.
So why does someone produce? Right. So listen, just imagine how difficult it is. You take someone who's never called anyone for business and said, you know what, would you like to buy a piece of property? But let's spend the next 2-3 years trying to figure out if you like me or not. And then figure out if you qualify to sell or purchase another piece of property, and and to do that consistently day in and day out. We're not conditioned to perform in that capacity, but we expect an agent to come into our business and our industry and be able to do the things that they're not conditioned to do physically and emotionally.
But you actually have a way, like a 6-month program that's like a gym for your brain, right? It's like going to the gym for heavy workouts for your head, a 6-month program for agents. And so you've taken your experiences and your knowledge and you've coached yourself with Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor and others, and sort of taken the best from the best. Tell us a little bit about how you've created something that you believe is really going to help an agent accelerate and get to that level that only, what would you say, maybe 1 to 3% of all agents in the world get to. What's your secret sauce with this program, Rich?
So it's not my secret sauce. So let's start there. What it is an amalgamation of everything that I've ever learned about performance. Okay? There is no secret. But the secret is is that you have to reprogram the brain to operate in a different way. I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it in a really succinct way, but he doesn't apply it to real estate, of course. But you must become something different to operate in a different way. And that sounds like doublespeak, but it's not. Right? Your current level of thinking is what, if you look at your results today, your current level of thinking is, well, that's what the results you're getting today. So if you want to go somewhere else or perform at a different level, you have to change how you think, because if you don't change that conditioning in your mind, you're still going to operate in the way you've always operated. So this program starts off by first, number one, you have to make a decision about what you really want. And that sounds really basic, but a lot of people get into the industry and they haven't really made a decision to be in the real estate game. Right? They haven't really made a decision about what level am I going to produce at? Am I in this game or not? Am I willing to do whatever it takes? And what that takes is to create a new program in the mind so that you operate in a new habitual way of being. Right? We all operate in habit. We operate as habitual beings, and pretty much 95% of everything we do is habitual in nature. So we take somebody into the industry and say, hey, come on in, but you can't keep operating the way you've operated your entire life. So how do we expect people to produce? I think we're setting people up to fail in our industry.
So how do you create new habits? Is that part of the program? And how do you know what habits what are some habits we need to create?
You know, it's really interesting for me. So I'll just take myself as an example, and I'll take some of the clients that we've worked with. 90% of them haven't made a decision to produce. They made a decision to get their license, but they haven't made a decision to produce. So step one, they can't worry about the how. They can't worry about how they're going to drive the business, right? So over that 6-month period of time, not only do we take them through the systems, operations, lead gen systems, landing pages, capture pages, CRM systems, how to produce video, how not to produce video, what to say or how not to say it. That's 20% of the business. The main part of what we do is how do we reprogram that mind to make a different decision every single day? And you can only make change 2 ways, right? One is an emotional impact, right? I have a heart attack, my life changes hopefully the next day. Or I make a decision about something and I use constant spaced repetition over time to create a new habitual way of being, right? So most people get into the industry, and I talk to agents pretty much every single day, and they're like, well, I want to do this. I want to generate more leads. I said, the leads aren't the problem. They're not the problem. Because when we generate leads, we had people on our team, we give all these leads to them and they still don't turn it into business, right? So the leads aren't the problem, or the number of leads aren't the problem. How they think about the business and about themselves, their self-image is the problem. So there's a great book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And inside that book, it talks about that's
an oldie but a goodie. I love it. Psycho-Cybernetics.
Listen, it is the granddaddy, one of the best books ever written on personal performance. Until you change your self-image about yourself, you can't outperform it. You know, it's interesting. So Bob Proctor asked a question to a lot of people, and he says, how much money have you made in a given year? And the reason why he asked that question is it's not about the money, but money is a great way to measure someone's image of themselves and what they're worth every single day. How do they view themselves in terms of their financial worth? So I think it's super important that when you get into this game of real estate, you have to make a firm decision that I am willing to do what is absolutely necessary to create something, to create an extraordinary way of being and living every single day. And that requires a system and a process to reprogram the mind. And we do that over a 6-month period of time. So we hold people extremely accountable. They have set systems and processes they have to follow every single day to create those new neural associations in the mind, to condition or recondition themselves to habitually perform in a new way.
Interesting. C3 and I have some friends in Miami that go down into the jungles for periods of time. They drink this juice and stuff, and you don't take people into those kinds of environments, right? To get them. I mean, this is a process that, tell me what it involves. I mean, what does it feel like? What kind of exercises do you do to change your mindset or change the way you look at yourself? I mean, is it incantations? Is it affirmations? Is it, I mean, let's unpack this for people and let them know, is it a shot we take in the arm or what is it?
Wouldn't it be so easy just to do that? No, we have our higher mental faculties, right? And those enable us to use, one of them is our will, right? Our reasoning factor, and then using our will to push us to do the things that we don't want to do. Let's take, for example, when we made the decision to come up into this market in real estate. I'm just going to use myself because it's easier to talk about something I know intimately. We came to a market where we didn't know anyone, zero circle of influence. Okay, I had two friends from university who, well, we spent more time on top of the bar and underneath the bar than we did talk about business. So they weren't going to refer me any business. So I had to make a firm decision about how we were going to operate when we were up here. 3 kids. My wife was at home with the girls. And I realized that I had to change who I was to perform at a different level. We had 2 of the top teams in the nation. Those 2 top teams today, one of them does 1,000 deals a year, another team does 700 deals a year. And I knew I had to operate in such a different way to perform that I knew that the process had to be a real committed decision to act in a certain way every single day. So first and foremost, each and every single one of us has a bunch of characteristics that we believe that a top performer must have. Okay? So some of those characteristics for me was that person had to be in good shape. They had to be a great prospector. They had to be able to speak coherently. They had to be absolutely committed emotionally to the outcome. They couldn't have any fear, right? So those characteristics I had to define for myself, because if I tried to adopt someone else's characteristics, I wouldn't be able to adopt them emotionally. So I couldn't perform the way, Cliff would perform. So Cliff, you have an idea of what someone needs to do every single day to perform, right? It's true for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
This is a business of repetition. Right. Yeah.
Right. We're a factory, actually. We're on the factory line.
Yeah.
So I had to make a decision about what did I believe that person who did X amount of dollars, who were they? And then I had to step into that person. Tony talks about that it's a new triad. It's a new way of being, right? My physiology, who I am, right? My focus and beliefs and the language that I use to create a new persona.
Right. Write your own story, essentially, right?
Write him and become him.
Right.
And then the challenge that we face is that our habitual way of being will pull us in a different direction. So your identity is going to create new reasons why you can't do what you're setting out to do. So until I change that habitual way of thinking, I won't operate in the way that I need to. And that does take constant space, repetition, visualization, and emotion. Once I'm emotionally engaged in the outcome, I start creating a new belief system. And once I create that new belief system, the habitual way of being, well, it just becomes like seamless, normal things that I would normally do every single day. That does require a lot of effort to change.
It's interesting. You hear the example of the 4-minute mile used frequently when it comes to breaking through resistance. It was thought forever that it was physically impossible for a human being to break 4 minutes running a mile. And then as soon as it happened, it wasn't just one person who did it. A number of people came then shortly thereafter and were able to break through that barrier. And again, it's one of those things that as human beings, we let our subconscious rule a lot of what we do. And therefore, we lose control. We lose touch with our goals, which, that's really a whole different subject with regard to performance and goal setting. But you see a lot of people in this business who get frustrated, and it's a lot of times they, when they get off track, they really lose touch with their goals. Let me see if I can go into this kind of from another angle here, Rich, and ask you. We've talked a lot about habits and things like that. How important is it for people to have that reason to get out of bed, that why? What role does your why have in your ability to succeed at a high level?
Well, I think it is everything. My why was being able to feed my kids and not go bankrupt. Right? That's I got to eat, got to pay bills, and this was the vehicle that we chose because there was no real glass ceiling and the bar to entry was low. Sorry, realtors, right? The bar's entry is low, and we can produce an above average or an extraordinary income depending on how hard we want to work. And
yeah, it's unlimited, right? You're right. Yeah.
Right. And so that why for me was the most important thing. But just because someone has I got a why, I got a great why, I got to pay for my mom's health bills or her cancer treatments, or I got to pay the mortgage, doesn't mean I'm going to do anything. See, we're all capable. We're all capable, but are we willing to do the work? And until we have this idea or this fantasy in our mind, like a realtor comes into the game and says, "Oh, I'm going to make $1 million a year." That's just fantasy. Until someone makes a decision that they're going to make $1 million.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what the why is, right?
So, yeah, Tony talks about massive action. You got to take massive action. If I'm a first-year realtor, right, and I'm going to you for coaching, Rich, what are you going to tell me that my daily calendar needs to look like?
Well, it's going to be a bit different in the morning because they're going to have to get up and reaffirm that decision that they've made that they're going to produce today, right? So we're very intentional in what you're going to do every single morning. I get up. I know what I'm doing today. I'm intentional about my outcome, right? So they're going to have to get up in the morning and they're going to have to report back to us every single morning what they did the day before. I need to know. You need to know because most of us aren't driven to that level to perform every single day because we're going to find non-productive activities, right? Our identity, our way of being is going to figure out ways to walk away and not do the things that we need to do. So having someone in your corner who understands you is super important. So in the morning, they got to get up and they got to really visualize and get connected to that outcome. Listen, there's no magic. There's no magic out there, but quantum physics and quantum mechanics has proven that thought creates things. Thought on its own has mass. And until you operate and believe in a certain way, you can't be a magnet for new things to come into your life. Cliff, you're a high producer, you're a big producer, and you've done extraordinarily well in your life. And you're producing at a whole nother level today, doing different things. But it's because of the way you are inside. Because everyone in your current opportunity has the same opportunity. But why you? Right? One is your belief, your self-image of yourself, and your belief in service, and belief that you can make things happen because you chose to make them happen. Right? That's a lifetime of conditioning to get that to happen. Right?
It is.
And
a lifetime. That's important. Yeah. Yeah, that's important to understand, and because there's some people out in the audience right now who are sort of struggling with this. They have the desire and the want, but what they don't have is the knowledge nor the skill to be able to put the pieces together about which we speak right now. And again, I want to allude back to what you did by creating a program, and this is what people who coach. We have this desire to help other people. It's something that, coming from contribution, is really part of that pinnacle of living. And until you've experienced it where you can give somebody without the expectation of anything in return, it is one of the rewarding states of life that there is. And people who don't have enough miles on their engine yet, and I'm not looking at you because I'm pointing you out, but I'm just saying that you and I, Rich, are older than my son, me much more so than you, but our perspective on things is a lot different. And, that's why it's really interesting if you observe people who get into real estate. You have young people who sometimes get in and they don't know any different. They just do what they're told and they crush it. And then a lot of times they'll burn out, they'll flame out, they'll go into something else. And then you have people who are my age who, we come in with so many different life experiences and things, and all of that in aggregate really plays a key into how we either flourish or don't flourish in this business. But what you get back to is it's really the imago. It's what has it's what your DNA is, how you were brought up. We talk often. We had Lars Lofstern on here the other day, and we were talking about how two twins that were born, identical twins could, be raised, with an alcoholic father, and one of them goes off and doesn't drink and gets married and lives an alcohol-free life, and the other, falls into bad times and lives on the street. And when they were both asked why, they both had the same answer. It was because of my father. And they just looked at the world even though they're identical people, right? They looked at the world through two different lenses and saw two different things. Zig Ziglar says every day when you get up in the morning, you have a choice. And your choice is, are you going to make that day a great day? Or are you going to make it a not so great day? And so it really does get down to choices, which is what, as a coach, I think trying to help people understand how to make better choices in life is really key to what we do. What is it that Peak Results Academy, let's talk a little bit about that and tell us what sorts of things that the skills that you try to help people hone and work on as they go through your academy, Rich.
So one of the key programs that we've launched is an actual mastermind program. Listen, everything that we teach has been borrowed indefinitely from other people, from Zig, from Tony Robbins, from Bob Proctor, from Wayne Dyer, Joe Dispenza, and we apply them to the real estate industry. What we do is in that mastermind, what we have found is that one-on-one is an amazing way to connect to someone, but it's only as good as the person as much as they're willing to share with you. In a mastermind of 15 committed individuals, what we see is that maybe one person is not willing to participate that day, but someone else is going through something extremely challenging. And through working with them, we serve those other members because they're watching and learning while that one person is on the hot seat that day, right? So of course, we go through this process every single week together, really working on that conditioning, that new mental process, so that at the end of those 6 months, their habitual way of being is a new way of being so that they can operate at a whole different level in the real estate business. To take someone into this industry and say, I need you to call 100 people today. Do you know how hard that is? One, maybe they're concerned about what other people think about them. They're worried. I want people to like me. They're going to reject me. They're going to yell at me. They're going to say no. It's not going to work anyway. Oh my God, I can talk to 100 people. No one's going to be in the market to buy or sell real estate today. But that's not true. There could be 30 people in those 1,000 homes they're going to buy in the next or sell in the next 3 weeks. We don't know. But we will talk ourselves out of it because we cannot outperform what we believe. So until you change that belief system, you're not going to perform at a different level. And through that mastermind is we spend about 80% of the time really focused on reconditioning and changing that mental process, that belief system. Let's look at it this way. I was raised to be a certain way, but I've had to change that certain way or else I couldn't operate the way I operate. I had to make a new decision about myself and what I wanted. But I still had to have the will and the persistence to do the things that were necessary to change that new condition, right? To change the new conditioning of my mind. It's like going to the gym. Just because I make a decision to go to the gym, I still got to go every single day to rechange how my body looks. It's not going to happen overnight. And what we have found is that 6 months is about the right timetable to create real change in someone's, mind and how those neural associations operate.
So if you had, and I can't, we're at that point in the show here where I want to ask you, Rich, if what's the biggest, you've seen these masterminds, you've accumulated all this knowledge and great understanding of our business. Can you distill it down to what would be your one best piece of advice to give someone in the audience right now who's in their first year, who's struggling, they've closed 1 or 2 deals, but they're looking for a breakthrough? What is your best piece of advice that you can give us right now to help somebody like that?
Oh my God, there's one thing that comes to mind, and it's going to sound so basic. They haven't made a decision. They're more worried about how they're going to do something. How am I going to generate more leads? How am I going to talk to that person? They haven't made a decision. A real concerted decision about what they're going to do every single day. Not only do they have to make a decision about, I'm going to perform at this level this year, but then they have to make another decision about how many people do I got to talk to today. And then they got to make a decision to actually pick up the phone or send an email, or I got to go knock on doors. They have to make decisions all the time. And Tony talks about this. It's in the moment that I make a decision that my destiny is going to change. But then from that decision, they have to, in my belief, that they need someone in their corner to help guide them to make those different decisions in their mind. Like, for example, so whatever you do, Cliff, today, right? The industry that you're in today and how you grow your business, so they need your help to be able to get out there and grow an organization, because you're doing it, you've done it. So why wouldn't they go work with someone who's already producing at the level they want to produce at? Right? Mirror someone else's activity. Do what they do.
Yeah.
But they have to make some key decisions along the way. And there is not enough time spent on actually someone making a real decision about what they want. They'll make a decision that I'm going to get licensed. And then when they become their closet agent, right? They don't tell anyone that they're an agent.
Yeah, we call them secret agents.
There are a lot of secret agents out there. And it sounds so basic, but those people don't make decisions about that I'm actually going to do this today. I made a commitment. I'm going to call 300 people today about buying and selling a piece of property. If they don't make that decision, they can't go to the next step. And that's like, okay, how do I change who I am to support this decision?
Right. We have a saying here in Texas about people who don't make decisions. Do you guys have squirrels up in Toronto, right?
Oh, we got a few.
You got a squirrel or two? The ones that don't make decisions here wind up being frisbees. Do you know what a frisbee is? Because
I do, my dog.
They get halfway across the road and they stand up like this and they look around, and before you know it, that QX80 is run them over, right? And so that's what happens in real estate. If you're not moving, if you don't have movement in your business, then you're dying. You're going to be run over, right? So I think, and this is a great way that we can close the show out here, Rich, is you got 2 coaches, really 3. I'll include my son in on this. He's coaching agents right now himself. But a coach is that cement that holds the pieces together, the glue that helps you keep the dots connected. It's not just about reading one book. It's not just about one activity. It's about how you manage your mind and how you make these decisions that help you. You know, the body looks like it's perfectly still when we're sitting still, but actually there's hundreds of thousands of movements, micro movements going on every microsecond, just like a ballerina who's standing on her toe, right, looking effortlessly motionless in the air. There's so much movement going on inside their body to keep it still that it would blow your mind. But what real estate agents do here is they go into the kitchen, get another cup of coffee, and sit there and contemplate how they don't have any business. And they don't take action. They don't get on the phone. They don't go out and meet new people. But this is a contact sport. And I'm in so much agreement, Rich, and I know you and I are both in this for the right and the same reason. And that is that we want to help people learn to become better at generating business, at creating a better life for their families, just as you did for yours and I have for mine. And by golly, success leaves clues. And it's such an honor. I know your children are young, but I look forward to the day for you when you can have a child sitting next to you and know that those seeds that you planted 20, 25 years ago, you know, when you poured into them as you are right now at this age, is going to come and really come to fruition. And it's an amazing thing. Rich, how would...
can I say one more thing before?
Absolutely.
Just to interject. You know, there's making a decision, and that is the most important thing. But until they create a new belief system around that decision, they're not going to do anything.
They put weight back on, right? You diet,
they got to
put weight back on.
There is a process to make a new belief.
Yeah.
And there is a mechanical way to create a new belief system. And once they create the new belief system, they will operate in a way they've never understood before.
Exactly. How can somebody, wherever they are, we got the internet now, you don't have to be in Toronto to reach out to Rich. How can somebody reach out and get a hold of you, Rich, and talk about your program, their situation, and maybe how you could help them?
They go to peakresultsacademy.com or peakresultsblueprint.com. Simple as that. The best way.
All right.
We love to serve. Ultimately, we want to help people make different decisions for themselves and for their family. And if we're not the right fit, that's okay. If we're not the right fit for them, there's lots of people that we can direct them to help them perform in a different way.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, we wish you all the best. Congratulations on your first snowstorm of the year in Toronto there. It's great to see that white stuff. We don't get it very often here in Dallas, and it's always, I know you guys are on the slopes way before we are. But Rich, thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing for this industry. We really appreciate you, brother. It's great to see you again, and let us know if there's anything that we can do for you. And we'd love to have you come visit here in Dallas sometime when you're headed down to this neck of the woods. Well,
I appreciate anyone who's working with you. Well, they are in good hands. So if you are listening to this podcast, and if you are making a decision, reach out to Cliff. He's a true gentleman, a true pioneer, and knows exactly what he's doing. So,
well, thank you, brother. It's good to see you, man. And I'll be thinking of all of you guys when I'm out on the beach this weekend in Puerto Rico, baby, because that's where I'm going Thursday. Trelvis, it's not too late. I got an extra ticket. You can come on, man.
Count me in, Cliff. I'll be on the beach and soaking up some sunshine with you.
Jump on it, baby. All right. Well, listen, get out there and enjoy this weather before we get the snow. It's probably going to be another couple of months, but you can still get out there, enjoy some good golf, good tennis, or whatever makes you happy. And we'll see you next time right here on Cliff's Notes. All right, folks, tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee